The judiciary in India has seen several stalwarts and luminaries who've had a profound influence on the way public institutions have functioned over the last 7 decades of India's independence. It is without a doubt that this is the most crucial institution in keeping democracy alive, as well as holding the powerful accountable. As I mentioned, there have been several thinkers and visionaries who've shaped the structure of the judiciary as well as its functioning. And one such personality was Justice Kamal Narain Singh, who was the former Chief Justice of India. I just read the story, his biography, which is authored by his daughter Sunita Singh, called The Making of a Chief Justice of India, The Life and Times of Justice Kamal Narain Singh. And, I was very moved by this book for a variety of reasons, which I will get into as we kickstart this interview and hear from Sunita. But I have to say that I found the Readomania publication's description of the book especially compelling. It goes as follows. The Making of a Chief Justice of India, The Life and Times of Justice Kamal Narain Singh, is the story of a country in transition, moving from the rural to the urban, fighting the baton of the British Raj, creating new concepts of nationhood filled with zeal to look at the world with a newfound confidence. New laws, new paths, new governments. India as seen through the lens of Kamal Narain Singh as he becomes part of the change, building roads, contesting elections, and changing course to step into the corridors of Chief Justice from the district courts of Allahabad to the Supreme Court of India. I have to say, another aspect of this book is that it's striking the right balance between personal anecdotes and political history. And Sunita Singh is a bilingual poet, an extraordinary storyteller, a writer, and, she's conversant in both English and in Hindi. A lot of her work has found its place in many Indian and international anthologies, and some of the publications which Ms. Singh's work has appeared has been in the Destiny Poets UK, Spillworths, Goldmag, Learning and Creativity, and many others. She's also been the co-editor of a women's magazine and for the Roseate Sonnet Anthology. Her solo book of poems, Dance the Flamingos, was awarded the best debut collection by Autism for Help Village Project Trust. Sunita, thank you so much for joining me on Swell. There's a lot to cover, but I just want to start off by asking you about the roots of Justice Kamal Narain Singh's story. Let's go back to Allahabad. What were his early days like, especially as a lawyer in practicing in the Allahabad High Court? And can you tell us about the influence that some of his mentors had on him, such as Satish Chandra Khare? And, how did this really shape how he approached the law and work in general?
Hi, Karan, and thank you so much for this lovely introduction. And I'm thankful to you for having invited me for this interview. As you have mentioned that this is about my father, Justice Kamal Narain Singh, and before he joined law, he was, as most of the people during the freedom movement who took part in the freedom struggle, he took part in the freedom struggle, and he was filled with the zeal, which I think most young men of those times were filled with, to work for the country. And he worked closely with Nehruji, Gandhi, and Mrs. Gandhi. But when he joined the legal profession, one of his mentors, although in politics his mentor was Shastriji, that is Lal Bahadur Shastri, and he worked with him. But later, when he joined the legal profession, Mr. Satish Chandra Khare was his senior. And in fact, before that, my father was practicing in the district courts. And it was Mr. Satish Chandra Khare who was a stalwart of his time. And he represented incidentally, he also represented Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1975 in the emergency case. So Mr. Satish Chandra Khare was a leading lawyer and one of the constitutional experts and a stalwart of Allahabad High Court. And he convinced my father, since my father had no background, his father was a landed farmer, my grandfather, so he had no background in law. In fact, he was the first university graduate of the family, of the entire clan. So Mr. Satish Chandra Khare asked him to join his chambers and to practice law under his guidance. And it was under Satish Chandra Khare's guidance that my father learned so many things, and how to prepare cases, and preparation of draft, analysis of authorities, arguments, everything. And he made it very clear to all his juniors that there was no shortcut in the profession of law. And he learnt hard work, study, and dedication to the cause of the client was the only path to success. That is what Mr. Khare believed in. And my father, Kamal Narain, he learnt those lessons under his guidance. So it was for long hours, and for several years he had to work for long hours. Sometimes it got very late in the night, and almost 14 hours he was working. So that was the beginning of his career as a lawyer.
What's really interesting and increasingly rare, I find, is that in his early days, he had a brief stint with politics. So, what was his relationship like with the political system? And I know that he was tasked with spreading the message about the first election that was about to take place in India. So can you tell us a bit more about that? And then tell us about, there's this very nice anecdote in the book about when Indira Gandhi visits Allahabad and Justice Kamal Narain is showing her around. So if you can tell us about that bit of the book, as well as what the first election was really like, and, what was Justice Kamal Narain's whole political tenure like, and what were the ideologies which really shaped him?
Well, you see, my father, that is Justice Kamal Narain Singh, as a young boy, because those were times when Gandhi had already arrived in the political arena, and this message of freedom against the foreign rule was spreading to villages, and the concept of nationhood, which up till now was unheard of, was being spread by members of the Congress, the volunteers, the freedom fighters, and my father became affected by it and infused with this spirit, with the zeal. He joined the Congress as a very young boy at that time, and they had to take up, take a oath of ahimsa. And while still studying in school, that was in class 6 in Sirsa, the Congress, the volunteers had to go for Prabhat Peri in the morning, singing national songs, and in the night, they would conduct night classes for the illiterate masses to educate them. This was during the freedom movement, and slowly he got more involved, although he never left his studies. And when he came to Allahabad, before that, since the Congress and was used to publish its own, newsletters, and they were posted it was all done very clandestinely because it was not allowed. And he used to do that, prohibited literature about what was happening in the country as far as the party was concerned. So twice he was caught, and once he was put into jail also. And in fact, twice he went to jail. Once he was let off. The other time he was he was imprisoned for I think a night, and it was because of this. So Lal Bahadur Shastri, like I told you, since he got more involved, he came in contact with Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was playing a major role. And Lal Bahadur Shastri, he hid with him in a goods train, going for some party work. He hid with him in a goods train to go to Mirzapur, which is a place near Banaras, and for some party work. So that is how he was involved during the freedom struggle. And he came to Allahabad from the village, and by that time he was absolutely into the Gandhian ways, and he would spin charkha and wear khadi only. And later, the first elections which took place was in 1950, and since the masses were unaware of it, my father was one of the volunteers who went from village to village telling the people how to do it. Because see, India had, it was the first election in 1950 and 1951. And people were unaware. So in fact, in September 51, there was a mock election which was held. And then in October, the actual ones took place. So my father had that role. And Mrs. Gandhi came to Major Tehsil, and she was shown around, and she wanted tea, and there was no tea. So they had to send a person to the station to get it. But then he got it in a lota. There was no, because this was a village. So yes, it was a very interesting thing. Okay, I couldn't finish that part, Karan. So it's like actually Mrs. Gandhi was supposed to come to Major Tehsil, which was in Allahabad, the rural part of Allahabad. And since my father was in charge of that area, along with the other Congress volunteers, workers, so they had made her program was sent, and they had made all arrangements for her to greet her and to provide her with refreshments. So the first time when they made all the arrangements, somehow her program got cancelled and she went to another area. And all the workers, they used up all the refreshments. And the next time, when it was again, her program was sent again that she would be visiting that Major Tehsil again, the Congress workers refused to do anything with it. They said that last time we used up all our resources, we are not doing anything. So no arrangement was made, but somehow this time she arrived. And when she arrived, they had nothing to offer her. So while of course she went to all the rallies and listening to all the the villagers and listening to their problems, and my father accompanied her to make her understand the language and to meet everybody. He was part of that. But then suddenly she said, I want tea, and there was no tea. And during those times, there was no tea stall or anything in the village. So then quickly they had to arrange something. So they sent, like I told you earlier, to the station, and the person who was sent, he just got it in a lota, one lota of tea somehow. And she said, I want to have it in a not in the crowds. So then they took her away to another portion of, and she sat there and had tea. So yes, after that she was very happy because Pandit Nehru won with a thumping majority, and from Phulpur, and so of course they were in touch because he was a member of the Congress. So this continued.
I also find it fascinating that, along all of his years serving as a judge and, being at the forefront of the judiciary, he managed to also keep a calm head and never really let power get to him, as it were. So do you want to share with us some other instances of how his humility really took him far? And you mentioned Indira Gandhi, and, and over the years, there have been many people and many political leaders especially, that he knew closely, right from Nehru to Indira Gandhi to Charan Singh. But I think Lal Bahadur Shastri especially had a big impact on him. So could you also tell us a bit about their relationship and the impact that Shastri had on him, as well as a couple of those anecdotes, where power really didn't, or the power of his office especially, didn't really affect how he dealt with everyday people?
Like I told you earlier also, that Lal Bahadur Shastri was his mentor in politics. And in fact, it was Shastri ji and Babu Mangla Prasad ji who nominated his name from the Congress party to contest for the district board elections while he was still studying. But the first time since it clashed with his law examinations, he turned it down. Then again in 1949, they again asked him, they again nominated his name, and this time he did not refuse, and he won the elections. He contested those district board elections and became a member of the Allahabad district board. And since Shastri ji was a member, so inspired by him, he took a vow never to take any money for it, any reimbursement. Of course, he had a vehicle which he used, and he worked in the interior parts as for education, public health, also public works. So there were times when he picked up a spade and started digging roads, because during those times roads were not there in every part of the city. So in his area, he also did that. And of course, the people of that area, seeing that he was doing it, they all joined it and did Shramdan. Now, this is how close they were. And later also, after Shastri became a minister, Shastri ji came to my house. He did not visit anybody's house or go for dinners, but he was very fond of my father, and he came to his house, and a simple dinner was organized, because he was very particular about everything being very simple. Having said that, now to come to the part about the humility and about the power. Well, after my father joined the legal profession, he became a standing counsel, a junior standing counsel, then a senior standing counsel, and as the senior standing counsel and the junior one also, it is the job of the standing counsels to represent the government. So there were two IS officers whom he was representing, and so when they visited him in the evening, they went for dinner to a restaurant in Allahabad, a famous restaurant. After having dinner, they were sitting in the car, my father's car, which was a Fiat, and waiting for pan. Pan is betel leaf. Everybody knows what pan is. So in a famous pan shop, outside a famous pan shop. So there was this two policemen who came, and they started, saying that they were carrying a staff and they sort of beat on the bonnet of the car and said that, the number is not visible. Of course, they wanted to extort money. So, it's very easy when you are in a position of power it goes to your head, and it's easy to reply and show the other person his place. But my father did not do that. And the two IS officers, they were senior IS officers, they were very angry, and they told my father to tell the two constables that who they were. But my father refused. He said he's doing his duty, let him do it. But of course, they all knew that he was trying to extort money. Again, he did the same thing. And when they said, my father said, I'm sorry, he said, you have to come to the police station tomorrow. He said, okay, fine, I'll come. And the next day, when he went to the police station, the police inspector in charge of that place knew my father because he was representing the police in many cases. So he said, what happened? So he said, it was famous that those two constables used to extort money. So that is one example of how he didn't let power affect him, which is not a very, usually power gets to you. So that is one incident.
So, Sunita, getting to his work as a judge, there were quite a few landmark cases which Justice Kamal Narain Singh presided over or was associated with. And one such case was the Indira Gandhi election case. There's a lot of public speculation about this case, but if you could tell us more about that particular instance, as well as some of the other crucial cases which, Justice Kamal Narain was a part of. I remember this other anecdote in the book where you talk about how he didn't react to any intimidation, which I find remarkable. Because, in this day and age, you do hear of judges that are either passing favorable verdicts or a lot of the times not taking difficult stands on important issues. So what were some of the cases which really stood out to you in terms of his long and really incredible career?
Karan, as far as Mrs. Gandhi's election case is concerned, that was in Allahabad High Court. That was not done by my father. That was by Justice J.M.L. Sinha, who passed the verdict. Yes, my father was a close friend of his, but he never asked, and somehow some people said that, told Mr. Khare that he would be able to tell. I've written in the book that Mr. Justice K.N. Singh can be used. And Mr. Khare knew, because Khare had been my father's senior. He said, nothing doing, I think somebody's cooking up stories. So he was not part of that, and he had still not come to the Supreme Court. So he was not a member of that bench. Coming to the other cases, landmark cases which my father passed, some of them were the Ganga cleaning case. That was probably one of the first environmental cases, which was, the ruling was passed by him. He was a member of that bench, along with Justice C.S. Venkatramaiah of the Supreme Court in 1987, where M.C. Mehta, it's a very famous case, M.C. Mehta versus Union of India, and which is about the Ganga cleaning. And still, even after 30 years, nothing has been done. So we can see how it all works. Then there was this very famous Nadiad case, which is a judicial officer was beaten up by the police, and they, chained him and brought him to court. And that was another landmark case in which directions were passed by the bench, of which my father was, one of the judges who passed this order. Because in the Supreme Court, usually single judge benches are not there. Most of the time, 99%. So he was again with Justice E.S. Venkatramaiah, and this was a landmark case, among many others, which he passed. See, as far as being very particular about his role as a judge is concerned, I'll give a small instance. When my brother became a judge, which was as late as 2002, my father had already retired. It was like 10 years after his retirement. So there's a convention in Allahabad High Court that if the father is also a judge, so he also sits on the dais when the son is taking the oath of office. So most of the times the sons would go and touch the feet of their father who were sitting on the dais. So my brother wanted to do the same thing. And he told my father that, on the dais after taking the oath, I'll come and I'll touch your feet. So my father said, no, on the dais, you are just a judge. You are nobody's son. You are nobody's father, nothing. So if you have to touch my feet, either touch it before you go or later when we come back to the house. You don't have to make a show of it. So that was his thought process. And, he believed, he was a very outspoken person, and he believed in reforms in the legal system. And I think probably he must have been the first person to say that, lawyers should not be charging such a, hefty amount from the public, especially in the Supreme Court. Because in Supreme Court, the lawyers charge per hour basis, most of the famous lawyers. And my father was against it, and he felt that, a cap should be put, which of course was a very controversial thing to say, because nobody had ever said it. But that is how he was. He said it like it is, and believed that the temptation of being a populist judge should not be there.
I really liked how you concluded that answer. The temptation to be a populist judge is strong, and it's something that, judges and people alike should, administrators especially, I think, should resist from partaking in. Sunita, it's been such a pleasure. I've got so many questions to ask you, and my apologies. I always assumed that, the bench that presided over Mrs. Gandhi's case also comprised of Justice Kamal Narain. But my apologies. And I think there's so much more to be said and asked actually in terms of his journey and what he would have thought about in terms of the way the judiciary stands today. And this country needs remarkable people and leaders in the judiciary like your father. And I wish you all the very best. I really look forward to having many discussions with you on Swell. More importantly, I want to hear all of those poetries and stories that we will hear on your Swellcast. And thank you so much, Sunita. It's been a pleasure. I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for giving me your time, and I hope to see you back on the Think Tank Swellcast very soon.
Thanks, Karan. It's been wonderful talking to you and answering all the questions, interesting questions which you have put to me. Yes, I agree that, the reason why this book also is just not about my father. As you know, you've read it. It's about India, the India that was, and probably if we can gain something from the times and the men that were. My father was a part of those times, and I think most of the men of those times were made of a different metal, and that was what India was. And thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to more such talks with you. Thank you, Karan. And thank you to Think Tank. Good night.